Hey guys, we're back. We have Avik Chatterjee from Speciality joining us now. Hey Avik, how are
Hi,
you?
Pawan. Good. How are you?
I'm great. We are really looking forward to this chat, and we've had a lot of people who actually messaged us. They wanted to ask you a lot of questions. So I think once we're through the chat, you're gonna be bombarded with some comments over there,
Sure.
and I have a lot of questions of my own also. So cool. Looking forward. So Avik, just to start off, can you give us a small brief on for how long Specialty Restaurants have been operating, some history about the brand, and what is your current presence internationally? Because I think you have couple of restaurants abroad. So just take everyone through.
Okay, so I'll start with a brief timeline of specialty restaurants,
Sure.
right? So it was founded in the year 1992. That was also the year I was born. So the managing director of our company, Mr. Chatterjee, he opened up his first restaurant called Only Fish. That was in Mahim, a small little 500 square feet space of a restaurant, purely out of passion for Bengali food. My dad would play the acting manager, and my mom would be the play the acting role of head chef. So that was literally my mom and pop store, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it all started from there. And ever since then, we did our first mainland China. That is our flagship brand today. We have 57 of them nationally and internationally. So it started off in Mumbai in Sakinaka. That was the first inception of mainland China, the brand. Then we moved on to Bangalore, Calcutta, and other parts of the nation. Then we set up our corporate office in 1999. We did our first round of private equity funding with SEV Partners. That was in 2010. Then we did 2012. We were the first listed company in the homegrown Indian restaurant space, and ever since then we've expanded and we've done over 145 restaurants and confectionaries. And our international expansion, we started off with Bangladesh in 2010, and ever since then we're now present in Doha, Dubai, and many other spaces as well. We were actually meant to open a London restaurant. It's a fine casual restaurant space in March end, but sadly the COVID-19 situation
Yeah.
set us back. So we will be pushing the plans of launch for that one, and also one coming up in Houston with similar to the COVID-19 spot. It's going to be pushed around as well.
So the Avik Specialty has honestly been in the forefront of the dining space with mainland China, and there's O Calcutta. And then there was this entire drift into the bar segment, I think, after you came in with Hoppy Pola, which was definitely India's favorite bar. And then after that, moving on to episode one now, which is already there in Kolkata and Mumbai. So, what is your entire vision after stepping into the business, and the business philosophy that you follow with your new brands and some new concepts into potential markets that you're looking to expand into?
Okay, so specialty restaurants primarily was in the fine dine and fine casual
Right.
space. Ever since I stepped into the company, my first pilot project was Hoppy Pola, and alongside that was a QSR brand called Zoodles. So it was literally a test. It was a pilot project with literally negligible capex, where I was given old furniture to reutilize, and that's the first time we understood that how important a brand culture or branding
Right.
was for a casual dining space. And that's where Hoppy Pola hit it off. And also a plus point for that was Hoppy Pola was conceptualized for the new age drinkers, or probably the new entrant of drinking age. And
Right.
the team that worked alongside me was also of a similar age group. So hence our ideas literally reflected into forms of success, and then we started expanding Hoppy Pola into different tier 2 cities as well. And that's when we got a vision saying that we want to categorize our company into 3 different verticals. One obviously being the flagship fine dine and fine casual.
Yeah.
The second one being into cafe/bars, or what we call it is wet-led concepts. By wet-led, I mean liquor-driven concepts supported by food. So that's another vertical, and the third vertical is confectionaries. We have a sweet shop called Sweet Bengal, for which
Right.
we actually have a food factory that's set up in Bombay, Mahim itself, and from there we dispense. We've also expanded that into Calcutta, and we also have a confectionery bakery called Dariol, which is expanded all over West Bengal and soon to be in other cities as well.
Got it. And so across these three categories, which is fine dining, confectionaries, and the wet-led segment, as you said, you're spread across a total of more than over 150 restaurants right now,
Yes.
or outlets, right? And with the current situation that's going on right now, how is Speciality as a group, dealing with this, or some initiatives that you guys have taken to go through the scenario?
See, immediately in the short term, when we got to know of the news of lockdown and etc., and then the extension, there was a sense of uncertainty which is still there in our company,
Yeah,
right? And probably in the entire industry itself.
yeah,
But what we see is that we need to keep our plans ready. There could be a worst case scenario. There could be a best case scenario, and by best case scenario, I mean a vaccine. If vaccine comes out soon for the COVID-19, I can only foresee everything going back to normal and probably nothing
right.
happening except of a bad dream.
Yeah,
But if at all the vaccine does not come out, your plans would have to change. So what we as a company are now working on is keeping a plan A as well as keeping a worst case scenario plan B. And depending on the situation, which could change any time of the day or the month, we're
yeah,
going to activate those plans. So for example, being in the bar space, if the vaccine does come out, we're going to have another party. We're going to have the biggest party of opening ever. It's going to be like a relaunch. But
yeah,
sadly, if the vaccine is not out, we would have to maintain social distancing or government norms. Like as I mentioned to you probably earlier, was that Netherlands is opening
yeah.
up on the 28th, and that's pretty much of a scary news for us because they have a law saying 1.5 meter rule
Meters.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then I mean, how do you experience a bar with a 1.5 meter rule difference? And also, how does my waiter serve to you? It's almost like throwing a frisbee to your table.
Yeah.
That distance has to be maintained, but it's going to be pretty challenging.
So
That
I
law
think,
does.
yeah, it was quite interesting. The article that you shared, um, a bar of a 148 seater now comes down to not more than a 16 seater with
Exactly.
this. So there is no way in which any restaurant will be able to, stay above the water, keeping that in mind.
Exactly. Unless we have like our partners in terms of our landlord partners can be supportive in that. Until
Right.
unless that happens, our costs are not going to be making sense for us to sustain.
So speaking about the cost and decision making, can you take us through some decisions that Speciality is making on a group level, which you guys are implementing at restaurants across the board?
We as a company had many plans for the year 2020 in terms of expanding some of our old units and also expanding some of our newer formats. But this probably the first time in our company we've heard of the word pause, right? We put
Yeah.
everything on pause because of the uncertainty that's growing day by day. And we've kept all our plans on hold as of now. The immediate current plan post lockdown would be to grow current store sales. We have to, even if we try to match up to last year's sales, it would be a
Yeah.
big success for us. And that's the green that we're going towards now. Cutting down losses is the only greens that we can see in the near future.
And during this time, is this a time where you sort of step back and really look at how you've been functioning, getting into each and every micro expense, and re-looking at the bottom line and top line of your P&L?
Yes, of course. I mean, we're in the business of perishables, so that's something
Yeah.
that we have purchased is obviously direct write-off. But obviously, our purchase stock is going to be very, very controlled. We've our outgoings in the business has to be controlled. It's basically to balance your cash flows. You don't want to be in a deeper negative that you already are right now. And but in some of our international locations, we've seen great support from the government. So we're really looking forward and hoping our government to speak similar languages.
Post the COVID era, what are your brands ready to adapt to the situation with? Would your casual dining restaurants also look at, which are mainly experience driven, example in episode one, would episode one now try and get more into deliveries? Would Speciality be looking at maybe venturing into the entire ghost kitchen business? Because as we've been having a lot of conversations, we combined feel that that is something that's going to be the future of the business in the next 1 year, at least going to be dominated by a lot of delivery?
Yes. So deliveries as a whole would be a separate topic that I'll come to probably after answering your previous question.
Yeah.
For episode one, what we've noticed is, so me and the team have been talking and we've been trying to ideate what's the future for us. But one of our plus points is that we're fairly a large space. That means we're very, very spacious. And you've been to episode one, you must have seen that
Yeah.
the tables are pretty spread out. So the
Right.
biggest advantage to us there is the kind of layouts that restaurants have today. And
Right.
if at all your restaurant's bigger in size, you can accommodate equal social distancing and probably perceive a similar kind of revenue. Um, but sadly, in spaces which are smaller and tables are close to each other, there would be a hit that we would have to take, or probably an entire model review if that's the situation and if COVID is here to last for a while.
And yes, moving on to the ghost kitchens, is Speciality looking at venturing into the delivery market?
Yes, we are, and we already have been in the delivery market. What we've seen is that we've put and segregated the ghost kitchen into two different models. One would be a kitchen in kitchen format where we do have an existing store and we're reutilizing our assets instead of making it very capital intensive. And for example, where we see there's huge delivery potential of probably our current brands and the new upcoming brands. We set up a small little ghost kitchen and from there we make it as a delivery unit itself. So we're working on both models at the moment.
Understood. And so I think Asian cuisine is something that Speciality as a company is dominated with 57 restaurants in mainland China, and I think then comes Calcutta. And do you think single cuisine brands work better when it comes to delivery, or it doesn't matter? You just it's customer relationship with the brand that works better.
I think it's definitely both. It's customer preference, and number one point of the customer right now would be hygiene. So it doesn't matter if you're serving whatever it is, as long as it's hygienic and at the right price point. That's the customer's first preference at the moment.
Got it. And lastly, what is the way forward post COVID? Like first few steps that post lockdown Speciality would be taking to ensure that they get back, stabilize business, and move forward.
So as I said, one is plan uncertainty, and the other one is plan vaccine. So moving forward, as we grow over the weeks, that plan will be activated. But as of now, we're just trying to keep motivated, trying to look forward to a brighter world altogether rather than an industry, because that's going to get our morale up and get us back into business, and that positivity that we had before would probably come back. And I think keeping your plans ready right now is the right decision to do, but taking any calls, it's too early.
So Avik, I think moving on to the questions that people have been asking in the comment section, I have one question that I wanted to ask. That is post COVID, right? What segment of your brands do you think will do the best? Is it going to be your fine dining? Is it going to be your confectionery business? Or is it going to be your wet-led segment?
I think in the short term, it's going to be the fine dining section. And mainly because of it's being supported by food deliveries itself. But probably in the long term, I think one fine day things are going to be back to normal. The world has fought different pandemics before historically, and things have been settled down. So I think in the long term, as long as we have our cash flows in place, everything should settle down, everything should come back into normal. But in the short term, to answer your question, I would say fine dining and cuisine driven businesses are going to be working way more.
Got it. Okay, so we're going to move on to some questions that people have been asking. The first question is from Dojo Bakery. What do you think about managing costs with packaging costs definitely going up because of the focus on hygiene? So I think what he's trying to say is with more deliveries happening, and hygienic packaging is something that everybody will be adapting to, the cost of that is going to be high. So how do you manage that with a delivery business? And this is something that you're planning to get into. So
there are hygienic products available which are not that expensive as well. I would suggest find a cheaper alternative as long as it looks good and it meets the hygiene standards. But if you got to do it right now, if that's how the world is going, you have to pass on that price to the customer. It's eventually going to take your cost up and also the price for the customer up. And if that's the cycle that becomes the current norm, I think we'll have to live with that. It's as good as saying we have seen as a country, we have seen something in the form of terrorist attacks before, and then we did see a change in security levels in hotels, in airports, etc. If uh, packaging also becomes that kind of a norm with hygiene, then I guess
Yeah.
people are going to be accustomed to it as well.
Okay. Our next question is from Mark from Shaw Group. He's asking that when you enter into deliveries, is it going to be mainly using aggregators, or are you starting to build up an own delivery model within Speciality?
It's mainly going to be aggregator built based, but we are also in some locations trying to keep our own delivery boys. Uh, this is because sometimes during the COVID-19 situation, Swiggy and Zomato have had difficulties in accumulating delivery boys and making
Right.
sure that we have ample amount of restaurants to delivery boys ratio. So in some cases, we have been denying our customers orders. So hence, we've taken a call to keep at least a minimal amount of delivery boys in our store units, and rest would be in the support of aggregators.
The next question is from Chirag Maru. Hi, Chirag. Glad you joined in. He loves episode one and he thinks it's a great brand. He wants to know what was the inspiration behind building episode. And in fact, that's a very interesting story that I know personally, but I think you should definitely share it with everybody who's logged in.
So episode one was given birth to make a mature bar when I compare it to a hoppy cola. Uh, Whereas hoppy cola would be the new entrant drinkers, whereas episode one would be probably a refined and a mature drinker.
Yeah.
That doesn't hand in hand go to say that it's going to be expensive. It's just giving you a more polished or mature experience, but probably the same kind of affordability levels. It's just about person's perception and taste. And with the creation of episode one, it actually stands on a modern take on Gymkhana. So while we created it with the team, it kind of goes like a story or a script design. Because what we did is we researched on the Gymkhanas in India, in the country, the culture, the history, etc. And then we saw a lot of elitism going around with new membership clubs coming in with a high membership value and non-members not allowed, etc. So what we did is we wanted to get the elitism out, we wanted to get the casual space in, and we wanted to make it open for all. So hence episode one is a modern take on Gymkhanas where everybody's welcome. Today's dress code is literally what you wear or what you see in the mirror, and etc. We have different experiential zones for people who would like a quiet conversation while dining, to people who would like a party in the ballroom or a veranda away from the crowd as well.
Yeah.
So that's how we built episode one.
Great. And the last question for today's session is from Nikhil. Do you feel discounting will play an important role in driving traffic post COVID?
I do not agree at all, because I think discounting has been a major factor that has probably given us price wars in the industry. So I think discounting is not the way to go. I think convincing your customer as to how hygienic you are and being confident about the thing that you're serving, and if you are putting in efforts to be or probably outdo anybody in terms of your hygiene standards, I think you are eligible to charge a higher price for that.
And a twist to this question would be, do you think it's going to be a more value-centric market post-COVID, or do you think the spending capacity per person is still going to be intact and people wouldn't mind having the usual APC that they currently do?
I think it will be a value-centric market for sure, but one of our plus points is that we've always primarily aimed at the value-sensitive or price-sensitive market anyway. So I think cutting down prices from here would only get us into future losses. But I think where we are is a price that's been very well accepted, and I think we should just stick to that, and things should come back to normal soon.
Sounds good. Great, Avik. This was a really insightful and fun session. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any closing lines you would like to, just say as a sign off to everybody.
Oh yeah, I would just say stay strong, stay safe, and most importantly in the industries, keep both plans ready. You never know which one you got to activate. Do not be focused on one plan and maybe it doesn't work, but keep both plans ready. Just push the paper ahead whenever it's the time. That's about it.
Thanks, Avik. We'll hopefully see you very soon. Take care.
Perfect. Thank you, Pawan. Take care.